Welcome to Cornwall Science Sessions.
Good morning, good people of Cornwall. Sam, you were saying something.
I'm just saying we don't give enough love to that theme tune.
We really don't.
Well done.
It's probably about time that we got some fan mail. So if anyone fancies sending us some fan mail, even if it's just about that theme tune, that's absolutely fine with me. Anyway, exciting news this morning, because we do actually have two extremely special guests in the studio with us.
Oh, you tease.
Yes, we really do. Who have we got? Let us know.
Hi, I'm James Makin, a student from the University of Leicester, repping.
Absolutely. We've also got actually a psychology student in the house with us, but I tell you what, how about she's going to step in a bit, because we've actually got some psychology on the show for you. It's going to be pretty impressive. Anyway, well, as usual, I think I'd just like to start actually by showing you some favourite noises that I've found recently. This is going to really spook you out.
I don't think we've ever started a show without some noises you found this week.
No, I don't think so. It's just very important to have various noises, isn't it? First of all, because I know for a fact that so our two guests today, James and Vanessa, they haven't actually heard this before. This is the Penguin song. Sam,
I'm excited.
You know about this song with Sam, don't you? You've heard this many times.
I'm a big fan of this, and my favourite thing about this is a penguin's voice unadulterated.
Wow.
This is perfect.
Oh yeah. This thing is, did you know penguins are naturally very good at singing? If I just show you this, you'll probably believe me. It's pretty funky. So this is a penguin mating call that got a little bit of a remix. I know I've played this so many times, but just bear with me, alright? Because come on, that's sick.
Wow.
James, you can do some pretty good hype voices, can't you? Do you want to test them out?
Inside to the DJ Penguin. Inside, man locked in.
Perfect, mate. Absolutely perfect. Yeah, one of those things. There we go. That's the bit we like. Keep going, James. It's good.
Right.
The listeners are going to be loving this.
Keep going. Yeah. That's what you want on a Thursday morning.
It is. That's great, isn't it? I've actually got something else for you as well before we continue. This is actually really spooky. I'm sorry, but it is. So recently there was a very well preserved dinosaur skull, fossilised, obviously found, and what this bunch of absolutely insane researchers decided to do was try and basically work out exactly what kind of noises that might be produced by this particular dinosaur, particularly vocalisations. Obviously, there was some guesswork involved, like kind of educated guess, should we call it, because of course all the soft tissues won't have been present. They're working on this well-preserved fossil, basically, and they came up with what particular noises this particular dinosaur might have had as a kind of vocal call. And I think it's not at all what you'd imagine. There's no roaring involved. This is actually very spooky indeed. So
they've done what? They've looked at the sort of
precisely. They had the 3D structure essentially.
So they know where all the tubes
fossil
are.
Exactly.
The size of the
so
tube.
they kind of. Yeah, they basically tried to work out what kind of vocalisations would be possible given this particular 3D structure of this fossil. This is what they came up with. Now, this is going to haunt your dreams. It's ever since I've... Oh, hello. Well, that's not the correct song. That's Daddy Yankee.
Close enough. Though,
I mean,
that
is my little brother's song. Just so everyone, he loves that. It's awful.
Yeah, we're going off Sam's laptop today, so anything that comes on, I'm sorry, Sam, it's your fault, mate. So Sam is a big fan of Daddy Yankee. It's called what's it called? Shaky Shaky.
Don't listen to that song. It's really bad. My brother.
Is it?
It's my brother's song.
Maybe we should put that on.
Dances around to it. Really don't.
I don't know, mate. Your brother seems to have a really good music taste. He's requested a couple before, and we absolutely loved them.
This one's not.
Really?
Yeah. Honestly, don't ever listen to it. It's not worth your time.
You've got me interested, mate. Let's just have a little listen. What we got?
This.
What's wrong with this? It's great.
This is awful. This is awful.
Awesome.
Oh, it's getting me in the correct mood for a Thursday morning. You know what it's making me think of? Where I'm going for breakfast. Where shall we go for breakfast? the slight issue. No, okay, no, let's actually continue. I'm going way off track here. No, sorry. Let's find this dinosaur noise that I've been talking about. Here it is. Right, this is going to haunt your dreams. As I said, when I first heard this, I didn't actually know the true meaning of fear. Now I do. You can't actually define fear. It's actually, if you try and define it, it's more like a sound, and this is actually the sound. Anyway, this is a real dinosaur call. Real dinosaur call. Ish. Sam, you're getting muted. So Sam's mic is off, just for the time being. Okay,
You can't silence the inevitable.
right, I'll silence my own, mate, just to keep you off air. Right, that's it. 1 second silence. Okay, we're back. You learnt your lesson, mate? He's learnt his lesson. Right, wait, hang on. Are we a casual 20 minutes in and we haven't even done anything serious? Okay, let's okay, anyway, let's give this a listen. This is really spooky. Yeah? You spooked?
Have they added that thumb?
Well, how cool is that?
Yeah, that is cool.
Is that not just a recording from Falmouth Harbour?
No, mate, it certainly isn't. I wouldn't cheat like that. No, if you're interested in finding more about this very, very spooky noise, just Google the Sandia Research Laboratory and that'll tell you all about the particular dinosaur specimen as well. I'm not even going to attempt to say where that dinosaur was from or what kind of time it was from, because I tell you what, I got absolutely hammered in the dinosaur quiz last time. So I'm not even going to attempt to. I'm just going to call it a dinosaur. In fact, I'm going to call it Barney, and we're going to move on. Because I still stand by the fact that the Flintstones dinosaur should not just be called Dino. It's
Dino.
Stupid.
It's Dino. I checked
Even
my
more
facts.
stupid. That's like saying, no, it's okay, my dog's not called Dog, it's called Doug. It's stupid. Come up with an actual name. Barney is actually a good name. Right, anyway, shall we talk a little bit about some real science that we got for you today? It's actually, well, we've actually got a really exciting lineup. So I think first up, because we kind of started this last time, and this was the interview with the Dynamite Valley Brewing Company. We're talking about the brewing process behind their rather lovely beer, actually. And
It's lovely.
it is good, isn't it?
Yeah, it's so nice.
James has had some.
Many.
Yeah. We popped in, didn't we? I think that was the first place we went when you arrived in Cornwall.
Yeah, it was.
Straight to the brewery.
It's got to be done.
Yeah, it really has. It's a chilled place. It's really cool. And we were chatting to Ross Castle, the one of the two guys who run the place, all about the brewing process and the beers. But we didn't get time last time to run you through this little section. This is actually where we were trying the different beers. So obviously it's very, very important to hear about this. Because if a man is trying beer, it's, you've just got to listen, haven't you?
It's of paramount importance.
It is. I'm glad you agree.
What we're about to play, Ben, is an audio recording of me and you drinking beer.
Yes,
Just a night at the
On a
pub.
science show.
No, there is science involved. Well, yeah, a little bit of science involved. But anyway, after that, now here's where it gets super exciting and super sciencey. Okay, back to the serious stuff, because you know us, we like to fool around a little bit and then rein it straight back in and hit you with some real hardcore science. So that's what we're going to do today. We've actually got it's a warm welcome actually to a brand new reporter who's just joined the team, and that's Alice Williams. So we had Alice on the show, a few shows back now actually, and if you haven't heard it, then there's no excuse. Go find it now. It's on YouTube. Go! 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 Okay, sorry, I got that off my chest. Get on YouTube. Listen
Sorry
to
to everyone who had to listen to that.
Yeah, the gain levels are... I hope Matthew's not listening. He won't be very happy with that, will he? The gain levels. Anyway, yes, go and listen to it on YouTube. It was a really interesting interview, actually. Alice, we got on the show a few shows ago, talking about... it was the development of settlements, early settlements, which was really cool, using kind of these models, which are essentially like almost like computerized simulations of different settlements. Really cool stuff, actually. James will like it.
Yeah, cool.
It's
Sounds good.
Yeah. Anyway, very interesting. But she's actually now a reporter for us, so she's going to be bringing us interviews and things. So we'll hear from her after this beer interview. And
She had interest from other larger organisations, but she decided to stay loyal.
yeah, well, we decided just to throw her a bit of a bonus because obviously we didn't really want the BBC grabbing her, did we?
No.
So she's with us, so that's good. Talking of the BBC, actually, now you're going to be impressed with this,
Smooth
how
link.
the smoothness
Smooth
of this link. Talking of the BBC, there's a recent show. Let me just. Oh, I can't remember what it was called.
Ben, this was such a smooth link until you've now forgotten what
No,
you were gonna say.
it's still smooth. There's always time for a little bit of looking about the place. What is the show called? Okay, here it is. Yeah, Michael Mosley versus the Superbugs. Okay, it's on iPlayer at the moment. The reason I'm telling you about this is because we had Dr Leonard on the show a while back, and she actually was on this documentary. She was on this BBC programme. So yes, that's right. We've got a BBC presenter almost on the show later as well. She was talking about bacterial resistance. So basically, unless it's not, it's it's probably crystal clear already. But if it isn't, this is going to be a quality show. That's all I'm going to tell you.
I'm looking forward to it. Ben, just a quick update,
update.
a quick travel update to anyone who was worried about the dead deer that was on the A390 by Grand Pound. It's been removed, so don't worry about it.
Excellent. Yeah, I'm going to have a great meal later as well, on a completely unrelated note. Anyway, let's kick off the stuff then. We've got this part 2 of the beer interview. God, I love deer. Anyway, let's play this now. Listen close. There's going to be a quiz on this, and if you get any questions wrong, I will find you.
Who, me or?
Anyone listening, I will find you. I can see you, I'm watching you through your webcam. if you're in front of a PC. If not, then I'm watching you through the satellites. Just getting creepy. I'm not actually doing that anyway.
Yeah, rein it back in now.
Come on. Gold Rush, which is the 4% golden ale that we do, probably our biggest seller. It's a very traditional British style of ale. We do some. As I say, it's our biggest seller, so this is what pays the bills.
Yeah, sure.
Whereas things like wheat beers and stuff are a little bit just more out of general interest for us, and there is a market out there to do it. But during the winter, wheat beer is hard sell.
Okay, Gold Rush. I'm excited about this.
So that's one.
So it's light golden coloured looking ale. That's really nice.
Thank you very much. I'll take a taste of this as well.
Dangerously easy drinking.
Cheers.
Yeah, but luckily it's only 4%, so
That's lovely. Yeah, it's very kind of smooth and clean tasting.
So I'll give you some of the old smoky as well. So something a little bit on the other end.
Excellent.
Of the scale, but I need to get it ready.
Is this your favourite one that you've got on at the moment? Or?
Yeah, it could well be. Yeah, it's just easy drinking, whereas the old smoky, which is the other one that's on the bar at the moment, tends to be, it's nice, quite lovely, like nice mouthfeel, quite smoother, whereas that one's a bit more crisp.
Sure.
The old smoky, I tend to find, out of our darker ales, I prefer the Black Charge because it's got even more of a smooth feel because of the oatmeal that's added, and it's also got a bit more sweetness. And as I was saying before, I've got a massive sweet tooth. All about cake, cake and biscuits. Yeah, but as far as it goes, this one's. But my favourite beer that we do is the other. So earlier I said about Pioneer, which is our 4.2% orange wheat beer. Our other wheat beer that we do is kind of seasonal. It's Prospector, which is one of the first beers we brewed, and we still do it now. It's a 5.3% Bavarian style wheat beer, so you're getting more of that clovey kind of coriander flavours coming through.
Yeah, sounds good.
And the first time I brewed it, it came out exactly as I wanted it.
Nice, congratulations.
So it's definitely the beer for me because it
was destiny. It was to be.
It was. So I'm really happy with it, but I totally understand why a lot of pub landlords don't necessarily want it on in Cornwall, because wheat beers are still not as looked for as I think they should be.
Yeah, absolutely.
But there we go.
So I assume this beer that we're drinking now, the Gold Rush, is made with the lighter grain that you showed us.
Yeah, a lot of the pale ale, the pale malt, went into that one. Small amount of torrefied wheat. So that means that it's not just the standard wheat that we have; it's the torrefied wheat. So it's almost like been heated up so much it's kind of gone to that popcorny almost, so it's blown up a bit more, expanded sort of phase. Apart from that, yeah, pretty much a very pale malt bill on that one.
I must say I'm a major fan of this beer. It's lovely.
Yeah,
I'm usually quite a kind of lager man myself.
Yeah, that's a good
ideal.
crossover. So, again, on a Saturday, when I was talking about people coming in and we're having that interaction with them, you tend to get couples coming quite a lot because the man, usually the man, and I'm not saying it's always the man, usually the man's like, oh, I need to check out this little brewery and whatnot, and the wife gets dragged along as well. Usually the wife, and I don't want to stereotype, but it is usually the wife. It gets dragged along as well. She goes, oh, I don't, usually just drink cider and lager, which we've got in the fridge available. If you can't
as a last result,
the Gold Rush is usually a good kind of, oh, actually that's not too bad option, as is the Pioneer, the orange wheat beer. So, yeah, I like to think we might not have it on that day, but we'll have something.
There you
for
go.
everyone.
Options for all.
As long as they're over the legal age.
Yes.
Of course. We're also big fans of doing beer and food matching.
Okay. Yes.
So a lot of the customers that we have, are really kind of well-known food pubs. So like the Rising Sun in Truro and whatnot.
Oh yes. Yeah, nice.
So I like to think that when we're creating a recipe, that we can bear that in mind. So when you're trialling a beer, you're tasting it, you're thinking, actually, that might be a really nice main, sort of hearty kind of fare. Your very more traditional English styles of food, so your steaks, your roasts, your pies. You get that a lot with maybe bitters and stuff. But then going back to the orange wheat beer, that's a really nice one because it's so crisp and so light. It's got some nice flavours, but it doesn't overpower the food. So especially with things like, let's say, fish dish, it's going to complement it, as will the Gold Rush. The Gold Rush isn't going to overpower the food, it's going to complement it. So I think we try and look at that as well.
Good way to look at it, actually. I think most people probably just assume, oh, a beer is a beer, you just drink it, but no, not at all. No.
Why should it be any different to wine?
Exactly, yeah.
What we try and do when sort of creating a beer is just sort of considering all the elements that you would require it for.
Well, and as well, this is real beer, isn't it? We're not talking about Carlsberg here,
No.
which should definitely not be classed as
the industry's least favourite beer.
Yeah.
Not my least favourite beer. But then also you're looking at the difference between lager and beer. And although we've talked about other styles of beer, so we've talked about stouts, IPAs, wheat beers, a lager is completely different. Because a lager isn't really a beer, it's a lager made different because it's a completely different way of looking at yeast.
Right.
So with an ale yeast, when it's working away and it's finished its process, it rises to the top and dies, so you can skim it. Whereas with a lager yeast, and it dies, it sinks to the bottom. Just a completely different way of working.
Yeah. Okay.
So in many ways, a lager is completely different to a beer anyway.
Yeah.
But when we're talking about mass-produced kind of beer, lager, Carlsberg and whatnot are making a completely different product, and the yeast needs to be treated differently. So whether it be Carlsberg or whether it be Budweiser, they chill it and then they have to put it on what's called a diacetyl rest, which means it's left on chill not just for 2 days, but sometimes a month.
Right.
So
this is because the yeast is still.
It needs to drop to such cold temperatures for long periods of time that it needs to be treated differently. Right. So it is a different animal altogether.
Much more heavily carbonated as well. Is that right? Is it?
So you don't want any yeast present in a mass-produced lager.
Yeah.
So what you would do is inject CO2 into the keg.
Right. Yeah. It's cheating, that.
In many ways, yeah. But I'm a big fan in kegging ale. Although we don't do it here, it's something I'd like to work towards, because I think, and there are other breweries around In Cornwall we have Verdant Brewing, who are another Falmouth-based brewery. Really nice group of lads. Do very hoppy beers. It's kegged, and it's a different way of doing it. And I think if you look at certain organisations, let's say CAMRA, won't recognise them, so they wouldn't be able to enter at the moment. Aren't able to enter their beers into beer festivals because it's not in a cask. Well, they're still creating a beer as far as I'm concerned, so let them enter it into a competition.
Yeah, it seems a bit of a...
Yeah, even if it's in like a kegged ale category,
Yes.
I think they should start recognising it. But I think it has its place in America, which said I travel around so much. It's all kegged. You know, we've had a visit from a couple of American people who are interested in beer, whether they be homebrewers or whether they've come from the industry, and they're interested because they don't come across cask ale. It's a very British way of doing things, and we're happy to do it because it's got us a lot of press. And the good thing about CAMRA is it's a really good way of promoting your beer if you do it in a certain way. And CAMRA have done a lovely job at promoting ale in Britain. It's come a long way from the sort of days of John Smith's and Worthington's and Boddington's, where now, you know, there's so much more variety in pubs now of different ales and whatnot.
Those beers that you just mentioned, those sort of creamy-like beers, is there a different... Are they sort of casked or are they keg?
Mix. I know you can get them in keg and I know you can get them in cask. To be honest, I haven't seen them around for a while because they're not, especially in Cornwall. We're very lucky because I travel around a lot around the UK. Especially in Cornwall, you just haven't got that option anymore. Mainly because we've got two huge breweries here ourselves. So we've got St Austell, we've got Sharps, and Skinner's as well. Skinner's is also pretty huge. So the big three in Cornwall have such a good foothold that we don't really require... You know, there's not many pubs down here that really look, I think, for things like John Smith's anymore. Sure. And John Smith's, going back to what my least favourite beer is.
So if we're trying to find the perfect pint, definitely not John Smith's.
Let's rule that out now.
Yeah, let's rule that. Gold Rush, I think, is pretty high up there, though, at the moment.
Yeah. I'll clean through the line in a minute, and I'll get you some of this. Unfortunately,
fantastic.
I said my favourite style of beer we don't have on. So, but I'd like you to maybe bear it in mind.
Yeah, well, we'll have to come back and try that, won't we? That's definitely one. Right, Ross Kessel from the Dynamite Valley Brewing Company.
Can I just stop you right there?
Unwarranted.
Sorry.
Please.
I know I'm just a guest here, so please tell me if I'm going out of line.
No, continue.
There is absolutely nothing wrong with John Smith's.
Seconded.
Not this rubbish again. So Reese called in last time we announced that.
Yeah,
to tell us that.
Well, yeah, big up Reese because
but mate,
it's a great drink.
But your opinion's going against the mighty Ross Kessel, who is a master brewer.
Fair enough.
To be fair,
I'm corrected.
No, I won't correct you. Actually, no, each their own, isn't it? Really.
Yeah.
Well, we're all liberal here. It's fine.
What are you thinking about John Smith's? So.
I like John Smith's. I think it's got its place. I don't think it's going to be winning any awards.
Perhaps not.
Yeah, I'm a fan.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
I think we should have a drink-related song then.
Well, yeah, you read my mind actually, mate. I was thinking of the perfect song actually to play now. This was originally actually Sacha Dall's request the first time we played this, wasn't it?
I think it was. Yeah.
I think it was. Obviously, he knows a lot about beer apparently. So yeah, he likes this song.
It's weird that he requested a song by you, Ben.
Well, no, this no, we're not playing that. That's too stupid for the show. We've already had enough insanity. I was actually going to play Pretty Good at Drinking Beer.
Oh, fair enough.
Billy Currington, fantastic song. Let's Go for a Pint is also a good song, but I think maybe we've probably had enough silliness.
It's a bit early to go for a pint.
Yeah, exactly. Well, maybe we'll
play it. We'll play it.
We could play it at the end, couldn't we? Yeah. Well, give it 10 minutes or so, and then we can probably play it at that point. Anyway, let's continue so we can actually get some science done today. Not that I particularly want to do that, but probably should. It is called Cornwall Science Sessions, not Cornwall's Insanity. Probably should be called that. Anyway, let's play this song, and then straight after that, as promised, we've got Alice Williams brand new reporter, bringing us some kind of psychology today, actually. It's fantastic. So psychology, specifically looking at differences between males and females. So very interesting stuff. It's going to get controversial up in here. We're going to get, we're not afraid to hit the big topics right where they're needed. I just got a notification from your PC, Sam. It says Drake won dance.
That's because you've forgotten.
Have you been downloading it?
No, that's because you've forgotten. Yeah,
it's playing it.
That's on my brother's playlist as well. What you're playing is my brother's playlist at the moment in the background while you choose your song.
It's all your brothers, isn't it, Sam?
The next song seems to be called The Duck Song. Would you care to elaborate on that?
So the Duck Song is a YouTube video that's not a very good YouTube video.
Shall we?
That I've now got the audio from.
That's fantastic. You don't even need to make excuses for this.
I really want to hear the Duck Song.
Should we have listens to the Duck Song?
Don't play
I'm
the
really
duck.
intrigued now.
Maybe let's play
guest,
the beer song.
No, we have to let the guests.
The duck story.
A duck walked up to
This-
Sam, please explain this.
So what happens in this song?
Why is this on your PC,
Got
Sam?
any grapes?
You might have heard the duck's gone to a lemonade stand,
Lemonade, but it's cold
Okay.
and it's fresh and it's all
and he's
homemade.
asked for some
Can I get
grapes,
you a glass?
and the owner of the stand has said there aren't any grapes because it's a
Then he
lemonade
waddled away,
stand.
waddle, waddle.
And
And then he waddled away.
And then he waddles away.
Oh, well,
that's brilliant.
And the song repeats about 5 times with the
Okay.
exact same words.
I mean, it's
Still looking for
Got any
grapes.
grapes?
well, we'll leave him looking for his grapes. Maybe we'll catch up with him a bit later. I'm going to hastily retreat back to the playlist that I've
I
uploaded.
warned you.
Hey, I'm sorry, but that isn't an explanation. The fact that he's going for grapes. Anyway, let's play some Billy Currington. Pretty good at drinking beer, and I'd like to give a shout out at this point to Sasha Dole.
I wasn't born for digging deep holes. I'm not made for paving long roads. I ain't cut out to climb highline poles, but I'm pretty good at drinking beer. I'm not the type to work in a bank. I'm no good at slapping on paint. Don't have a knack for making motors crank, no, but I'm pretty good at drinking beer. So hand me one more, that's what I'm here for. I'm built for having a ball. I love the nightlife, I love my Bud Light. I like 'em cold and tall. I ain't much on mowing thick grass. I'm too slow for working too fast. I don't do windows, so honey, don't ask. But I'm pretty good at drinking beer. Go get it. Well, maybe I'm not. I'm not known for doing a lot, but I do my best work when the weather's hot. I'm pretty good at drinking beer.
Bring in the hype man.
Inside. Give me one more, that's what I'm here for. I'm built for having a ball. I love the nightlife, I love my Bud Light. I like 'em cold and tall. I wasn't born for digging deep holes. I'm not made for paving long roads. I ain't cut out to climb highline poles, but I'm pretty good at drinking beer. I'm pretty good at drinking beer. Oh, hand me one more, boys. That's what I'm here for.
Hand me one more, boys.
That's what I'm
Love
here
that tune.
for.
That's what I'm here for. Okay, right, so let's continue. So, well, it's finally come to that time, actually. It's time for some science. Prepare yourselves. This is a great interview, though. So this is Alice Williams, as I said before. She's got special guest Dr Lotty Brand with her. We'll be talking about some psychology and gender differences in psychology. Fascinating stuff. Alice, thanks for this.
So we've got here Lotty Brand. Lotty's just started a postdoc a few months ago down here at the University of Exeter here in Penryn. She did her PhD in St Andrews in psychology. Do you want to tell us a bit about your PhD research, Lottie?
Yep, hi, thanks for having me. So, yep, I was doing my PhD up in St Andrews up until last December, and the project was based all around this idea of cultural evolution, which is a big hot topic here at Exeter as well, which is just the basic idea that human behaviour and human cultural change can be described and understood in the same way that genetic evolution is understood. So successful behaviours are passed on and spread to other individuals, and that's how we come about different cultural behaviours in different cultural groups. And my particular project was trying to understand sex differences in social learning. So when I say social learning, I just mean learning from other individuals rather than learning on your own via trial and error. And so specifically we were interested in whether men and women may conform differently. So maybe there's an idea that women conform more than men. So we were exploring that idea. And the other topic was whether men innovate more than women, or whether men learn individually more independently than women. And we were specifically interested in whether these differences, if they do exist, whether they're underpinned by other differences such as confidence differences or risk-taking differences. So, for example, in our conformity experiments, we found that women were more likely to conform. So when I say conform, I mean copy the answer of a majority. They were more likely to do this than our male participants, but this was purely because they had lower confidence than the male participants in this particular task. And obviously there are many reasons why women may have lower confidence than men. This could be due to cultural ideas, society, the way society is set up, developmental processes from childhood. And it is quite a general pattern that women and girls have lower confidence than men in a range of areas such as mathematical and spatial topics or tasks. So we were exploring how lower confidence can lead to higher conformity. Obviously that makes sense. If you are low confidence in your own ability, then maybe it's better to learn from others who may know more than you. And then the other aspect of it was that men tended to learn individually more than women in a different task, and this seemed to be explained by differences in risk-taking. So men generally tend to be more risk-taking than women. This has been shown in many previous research and reviews, and this may lead to them also learning individually more than women. Perhaps if you're more likely to take a risk, then you're more likely to do something new that hasn't been done before, or that you have never done before, that you're not sure what the payoff might be, you're not sure if it's going to be successful or not. And so they were the two main results that we found from experiments that I ran up in St Andrews. And then the last part of my PhD was quite different, but I got sucked into a big statistics debate within science, which is going on within psychology at the moment, referred to as the replication crisis, and the idea that many findings that psychologists have typically claimed to be kind of guaranteed, or things that the field of psychology is built upon and that is quite popular psychology as well, and many of those findings aren't being replicated and aren't being found again and again, which is obviously a problem for science. So that has led to a big kind of movement, I suppose, towards more open science is one aspect of it. So having your data openly available so that other scientists can try and replicate your work, having your methods available, having your statistics available for others to try and see if they can get the same results from your data or from your experiments. And the other aspect is looking at the actual statistical tools that people have been using and whether they've been analysing their data accurately. And when you're faced with a big data set as a psychologist, there's often many different ways you can analyse that data set, and some of them may be more likely to give you the result that you want than others. And so there's a big movement at the moment to try and make sure that researchers aren't able to just kind of play with their data as much as they can until they find the result they want, because obviously that's not very objective. So the last part of my PhD, I did a big project examining many different types of statistical analyses and looking at how they affect outcomes, essentially, and the different kinds of outcomes that you can get from a given data set. So yeah, that's what I was doing up until December.
That sounds really interesting. All of it. I mean, particularly the last part, and that sort of, in a way, psychology is reinventing the way it does science, isn't it? To try and make it more robust, and so we can trust the results a bit better. What sort of things do you normally do to get your data in the first place? So who's involved in your experiments?
Yeah, so up in St Andrews in the psychology department, I was mainly using computer-based studies, so designing experiments that participants can just do on the computer, whether that's online or whether I get them to come into a computer lab at the university and do the experiments there. And there were a couple of tasks that I was using. One is based on this idea of a mental rotation task, which is, you may have seen them in IQ tests where there's shapes made up of cubes, and some of them have been rotated, some of them are facing different ways, and you have to pick which one matches the original shape or something similar like that. And we used that task as well as a version in which, rather than being abstract shapes and cubes, it was images of human figures. So a person maybe with their arms in the air or whatever, and then they'd been rotated in different angles, because there was evidence that actually men and women perform more similarly to each other on those tasks compared to the abstract shapes, and that there has classically been a sex difference in the shape version, but that can be altered by various different factors. So we used that task, which was all set up on a computer, and participants would come in and go through the task, and then we would show them, after they'd answered each question, they were given the opportunity to see other people's answers and maybe change their answer to fit in with what other people had said. That was the conformity aspect of the study. And this would typically be undergraduate students, because obviously they're there at the university. They can come along and do some research as part of their own kind of understanding of how research works. And also, they're paid a small amount to take part through our research funds. Obviously there are problems with only using undergraduates, because they don't necessarily represent the rest of the population for many reasons. So there is a big move towards getting a larger sample, so whether that be using online resources to get members of the public, or even reaching out to local communities, which I'm hoping to do here in Cornwall. And then the other task, again similarly using participants from the university and online participants, was all about building a spaceship, but a virtual spaceship on a computer, in which you drag different items of the spaceship. Say you choose engines, aliens, lasers, shields, what else? Cargo, all sorts of silly things that you might put on a spaceship. And you pick different items, you make your spaceship, and you get a score, and then you have the option of either seeing other people's spaceships and how they were built, or by carrying on and finding new resources for yourself to build the spaceship in this kind of online game environment. And that's the one where we were looking at risk-taking and how that affects people's likelihood to learn from others or to learn on their own. So yeah, they were the main methods that I was using.
That sounds like great fun. It really does. So is the idea there, I mean, if you take real human participants and put them in an actually risky situation, that's not really ethical, is it? So it's trying to create situations where you can test their behaviours, but it's actually safe?
Yeah, exactly, that's a good point. Yeah, a lot of everything that we do has to go through ethical approval, especially psychology departments are really strict with this. Down to, you have to show them every piece of information that the participant will see to make sure that they're not going to feel stressed or upset by anything that you present them with. So yeah, these were really kind of fun games, meant to be quite fun games, and we could set up a situation where the risk just involved getting a lower or higher score, and their score depends how much they get rewarded for being a participant. So everyone got, I think, a basic £3 per half an hour, but they could win up to £5 if they got a certain score. So the risk is only not being able to get the £5 or not, which is still risky, obviously, for a student. You want £5, but not unethical.
So just taking back to the cultural evolution and sex differences things, would you say, so you've got some clear differences sometimes between the way men and women behave. Is that mainly due to cultural influences, or are there some underlying genetic differences there that play in? What do you think?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that because obviously studying sex differences is inherently controversial sometimes. It's very hotly debated, not only just within science and psychology, but obviously in the general public. Everyone has, and rightly so, strong opinions on whether we should be talking about men and women being very different or very similar to each other. But as I study cultural evolution in and of itself, that idea is based upon the kind of reality that our biology and our environment and our culture are constantly interacting from the day we're born. Our genes and, whether you want to call that our innate biological kind of foundation, is interacting with our environment. It's getting feedback all the time from our culture, from society. Developmental processes are going on, hormonal changes, and you learn from everyone around you. And learning is and social learning is kind of the key core component of cultural evolution. So when we talk about sex differences, we never assume them to be either biological or cultural. This is kind of a false dichotomy. It's always both, and they're always intertwined. So the really tricky part is trying to break down where the differences come from, if and when they occur, what other factors can help explain in what context they might occur. So, for example, yes, there seems to be sex differences in risk-taking, in that men tend to take more risks than women in general, be that extreme sports or gambling. But whether that's due to genes, or which possibly it is, it could also be due to hormonal differences, say testosterone. Say men tend to be more competitive than women, they maybe have higher testosterone. Just as a very simple, crude example. All sorts of physiological differences could be going on there, but obviously also cultural impacts. So if you're a man and you grow up in, say, a Western industrialised culture like ours, and the messages that you get as a male in our society every single day, essentially from the day you're born, is that, men are strong, they fight, they play football outside, they compete with each other. All of these messages that are bombarded to an individual every day can affect then how they behave, or how they expect themselves to behave, how they see other men behaving. And obviously that can lead to there being differences in risk-taking or not, especially if you're learning from each other, and if you're learning more from one sex than another even. Perhaps you learn from your dad more than your mum if you're a boy, who knows. These things can all lead to differences which aren't necessarily innate. They're not necessarily present at birth, and there's nothing you can do about it. You could easily grow up as a woman who's much more risk-taking than a man. These are obviously all averages, so... Yeah. A good way of thinking about it, which I really like, that I heard Melissa Hines once gave a really good talk showing that the average difference in height between men and women, obviously on average men are taller than women, but we all know women who are taller than most of our male friends and vice versa, and that's one of the strongest sex differences, but we can always think of examples where it kind of breaks the rules. So it's always averages, which I think is another important thing to remember.
Yeah, definitely. And I guess it sort of feeds into sort of messages and how to make society more welcoming and a safer place for men and women, because having all these messages bombarded at you, being like, be strong, never cry, that's not healthy for a lot of men. And same with women, sort of, you must be beautiful all the time. These are things that we can recognise and identify and perhaps try and
Yeah.
alter or
Yeah, definitely. I really love all these campaigns at the moment, trying to stop, shops having their pink and blue sections for the toys, even very simple, small things like that we might not think are that important. A lot of people roll their eyes and say, oh, who cares if girls have pink toys and boys have blue toys, but if the blue toys are all, to do with being a doctor or a rocket scientist or an engineer, or trucks and building blocks, and the pink toys are all dolls and makeup brushes and hair brushes and whatever else. What kind of messages are they kind of subtly, implying to children and to adults? There might be, a girl who really wants to be a scientist or an engineer, but she doesn't assume that that's something that's open to girls because she doesn't hear about male or female engineers. She doesn't hear about female scientists as much, or rocket scientists, or whatever it is, and all of these things are really important. So yeah.
So shout out to all the women and girls listening. You can be a scientist like Lottie, and
yes.
It's okay. Yeah. So do you want to say anything about what you're doing here?
So I only just started my postdoc here in January, which I was extremely lucky to manage to get after just finishing up my PhD in December. And I'm still working in the area of cultural evolution generally and exploring the processes of social learning, so how humans learn from each other and what causes them to learn from some individuals more than other individuals. So the general idea that we're hoping to explore at the moment is looking at prestige and dominance. So prestige is the idea that some individuals gain respect in their group or in their community for either being very skillful or very knowledgeable about something. Say you're in a group and one person is excellent at building a canoe, as a silly example. Maybe that person then gains respect in the group and they get certain benefits in the group, and they get a lot more attention, and then people are more likely to learn from that person than anyone else. Also, obviously, it makes sense to learn from the person who's best at building canoes to build a canoe, but perhaps also you copy them in other ways, which kind of feeds into the idea of maybe, celebrities in our culture often advertise things that are nothing to do with what they're good at. So a footballer advertised shaving foam and Pepsi or whatever, and that's kind of nothing to do with football, but because they're respected and they're a big, well-known figure, then we associate them with other things and they get copied generally. And then the other idea is dominance. So in lots of animal societies, there's a hierarchy. There's an individual who's the alpha male or female, and they're maybe the most physically dominant or strongest, and they maybe have more access to resources, and maybe they are learnt from more in the group, or they're copied purely because they are strong and dominant and they gain a lot of benefits from their position in society, in their hierarchy or society. So it's trying to explore how these two processes may be at play in human society at the moment. So do people learn from prestigious individuals? Do they learn from dominant individuals? Do they learn from both? When do both come into play? And how do those types of strategies or individuals affect the way information spreads through a group or the way information is transmitted? So, for example, if you imagine you get a new job somewhere and there's a boss who's very kind of threatening, and perhaps not directly threatening, but they're quite intimidating, and maybe they use kind of fear, threat and intimidation to kind of gain influence. Maybe they use those kinds of strategies to get everyone to listen to them or do what they say, whereas someone else may be generally respected because they're actually very good at what they do. And so do these two things happen at the moment in human societies, and are they affecting the way people learn from each other? And that's generally what we're going to try to look at, I suppose, in various different ways and at various different levels, coming up with little computer programs to try and games similar to my PhD to try and see how people behave. But also we'd be interested in going into the local community, asking questions about their experiences, and playing games and doing questionnaires and things with people in the local community to see what's going on.
So watch this space, I guess.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah, brilliant. Is there anything else you want to say?
No, just that I'm really enjoying living in beautiful sunny Cornwall.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much for speaking to us today. That's fantastic.
Thank you.
Well, that was Dr Lotty Brand. Thank you very much for that. That was a fascinating interview, actually. And thank you, Alice, as well. Alice Williams brought us that interview, so thank you very much to both of them. A very important issue, actually. Well, a few very important issues that were touched on there. But coming back to that advertising thing, because James, your kind of area of expertise is advertising and kind of media.
Expertise, but
I would. But I think you found that particularly interesting because you've picked up on actually before this quite stark contrast between even things as silly as they were saying, as Lottie and Alice were talking about. This thing, the toys are just so vastly different. We noticed that the other day, didn't we?
Yes, we did. Yes, because obviously, if you walk down the kids' toys aisle, you'll see one side, bright pink, and it'll be all the Bratz, the Barbie sort of stuff. The other side will be all the action men, big burly men, sort of combat gear and all that. But funny enough, people often talk about the kids' toys, but I mean, if you go into say Boots or something like that, you'll see it for all sorts of stuff. Like I think the Dove. For it's like the deodorant and cosmetic brand, you'll see for like all the women, it's all white, flowery kind of stuff, and then you'll see like Dove Men, and it'll be like big bold font and stark black colours like silk,
which are effectively the same thing. But,
absolutely,
one's aimed at men, the other's advertised at women.
Yeah. It's all just branding, really. So cause the thing is, what's interesting is, for advertising and business, it's actually more useful for a sort of more stark difference between men and women.
Of course.
Because then it gives you your target audience. Mm-hmm. So it's all, that's why it's often in advertising, it faces a lot of problems in trying to combat the sort of stereotypical presentations of men and women.
Yeah, of course.
Because it's actually quite useful for the business to do that. So, without sounding too conspiracy theorist.
No, it makes perfect sense.
So why would it be useful for the business to sort of target, rather to play to stereotypes rather than trying to hit everyone? Because you're obviously halving your market if you go.
Yeah, well, it's not so much that, but if you give yourself like a strong target audience, because if you try and market to everyone, it often fails because
Jack of all trades, master of none.
Yes, indeed. So you don't sort of get a strong sense of what your product is about, because in advertising these days, it's more about sort of selling a feeling of a product rather than it is selling the actual product. I mean, if you look at cars, for example, you'll see like the flashy sports cars, whose the main buyer of those is like older men. So it's sort of selling the feeling of empowerment. It's all about the aesthetics of it being really pleasing and powerful.
These are things which I wouldn't usually pick up on, because the other thing I was going to mention, James, which you were telling me about before, you were saying sights and sounds and even smells are all utilised.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Against you
to get you to buy. Yeah. Because you walk into a bakery and you'll smell like all the bread and everything. Like if you go to like the bakery section in wherever, the local supermarket, whatever.
Yeah.
Often they'll quite purposefully waft the smells throughout the purchasing route.
The power of advertising.
Yeah.
I think actually, didn't this strike you, James? You picked up a pasty at the service station the other day. That wasn't the plan originally.
Oh no, it wasn't at all.
You ended up getting a pasty. Obviously, when we're talking about Cornish pasties, you should always eat it. That's a law of being in Cornwall, isn't it? Always have a pasty.
You see the grab bag of Doritos, and you just got to pick it up.
Okay, well, if you insist, I will grab it. Actually, chili heat wave, even better. Fine, yeah. It's a fascinating field.
Other nacho chips are available.
Well, yeah, they are, but none of them are Doritos, are they, mate?
Send us some Doritos, please.
Yeah, I tell you what, if you do, then we'll definitely plug Doritos. Doritos probably doesn't really need our help, though, does it? It's quite a big brand. Anyway, do it. Anyway, that was a fascinating chat. So thank you very much to Lotty Brand for that discussion. Getting more women and girls into science really is a major issue. So if you're listening and you're a girl and you're thinking about science, but for whatever reason you haven't been encouraged to do it, if it's anything that you want to do, definitely go for it. You really must do that. Don't let anything put you off doing it. I think is the main issue to get. Point to
so
get across.
The main argument there is that we're losing half of the greatest brains that we could have in science. So,
and many of the greatest brains in science were indeed women, and also here kind of perfectly highlights the issue, doesn't it? We know hardly any famous female scientists, but when we say most famous scientists of the time, Einstein probably swings to mind.
Yeah.
You know, but it's an issue, isn't it? It's just it needs more coverage, it needs more awareness. So yeah, if you're listening, I hope that's
That encourages you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think then, unless anyone have anything else that they wanted to say?
No, I think you should try some sort of smooth link, Ben.
I could attempt a smooth link if you like. Yes, okay. Well, let's do a smooth link, and then we'll come back to this. And then we've got another section coming up. Yeah, Michael Mosley versus the Superbugs. It's a documentary to check out because Anne Leonard is actually on it. So we've got Anne Leonard talking about bacteria in a minute, bacterial resistance, which of course is another major issue. Of course, this time a major health concern. I was thinking actually next let's handle a bit of a song request that we've just got sent through. Now, I must say this was an absolutely fantastic choice. So this goes out to Adeline and Sam, the two lovebirds. I believe they're probably, what's the time? Yeah, they'll be on their way to uni now, probably. This is for you both. Now, this is a fantastic song. Let's see if you can recognise all of the voices in this. If you can't, then you're in deep, deep trouble. I'll let you have a go at it anyway. So, Adeline, Sam, my darlings, this is for you.
When it's love you give, I'll be a man of good faith. And in love you live, I'll make a stand, I won't break. I'll be the rock you can build on. Be there when you're old, to have and to hold. When there's love inside, I swear I'll always be strong. and all for love.
Well, that was the sultry sounds of All for Love by Rod Stewart.
Yes, correct.
Sting.
Correct.
How many more? How many more am I guessing?
There's just one more that you need.
I didn't get this.
Come on, it's obvious. Another sultry voice, but kind of it's sultry in a kind of.
It's not Flo, is it?
No, that would be a
if
good
only.
guess. He could have been in the background with his guitars. It isn't him, no.
No.
Go on, Ben. Tell us
Think
now.
of some other. Think of some kind of grizzled, in a really good way, voices, husky voices.
Chad Krieger from Nickelback.
Good guess. No, not this time.
Go on, Ben.
Tis
Put
in
us out
fact,
our misery.
tis in fact Bryan Adams as well.
Oh,
yeah,
of course.
It's an absolutely fantastic
Of
song.
course.
A great choice by Sam and Adeline there. Dedicated to Adeline because he's a massive cutie. He's all for love with you, Adeline. It really is. Everything he ever does. Even when he goes in the bathroom in the mornings, it's all for love. No one would believe
Moving
that.
on to science.
Anyway, good idea. So shall
Talking
we...
of bathrooms, we have an interview about bacteria.
Seamless.
That was
Seamless.
I think we should should we try not to be as seamless, because the people are going to think this is rehearsed if we're not careful. We don't want that, do we? Ladies and gents, special guest for you here today, Dr Anne Leonard from the Environment and Sustainability Institute. Now, Anne, you're no stranger to the media, right? You've attracted the BBC's attention before with some of your work, I think. Now, it's enough from me. Over to the expert. Anne, would you care to tell us a bit about what kind of stuff you're interested in?
Well, I'm an environmental epidemiologist, which means that I'm interested in the occurrence, distribution and control of diseases in the environment. So I work on antibiotic-resistant bacteria in natural water bodies. Antibiotic resistance is a major threat to modern medicine. Bacteria that cause infections in people are becoming resistant to the drugs that we're using to treat them. And we're running out of new antibiotics that are effective. So I'm interested in the role that natural environments play in spreading these resistant bacteria to people.
I mean, this is something which you hear about a lot in the media, antibiotic resistance, often referred to as one of the kind of biggest crises that face current science. Maybe we could talk a little bit about how that actually works, because these bacteria, they can evolve so rapidly compared to if you pick an animal, for example. This is the problem, right? Because they can just evolve so quickly.
A new generation of bacteria can happen every 20 minutes, for example, whereas, humans, it's every, say, 20 years.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, the timescales are completely different, and actually what's really interesting about bacteria is that they're able to share parts of their genetic material, their DNA, with other members of the community that they're in, and they can even do this between members of their community that aren't the same species as themselves. So an E. coli can share genetic information with, say, a Klebsiella.
That's just crazy. That would be like, for example, it would be like a human picking up some gene from a jellyfish or something, wouldn't it?
And this happens entirely naturally. This is an ancient phenomenon. This isn't just only recently happening, but what has happened in the last, say, 100 years is that people have been starting to use antimicrobials much more in human medicine, veterinary medicine, and antimicrobials are present in everyday household products, and these chemicals can help bacteria to select for resistance genes.
How bad do you think the situation is? I mean, do you think this does deserve this title of one of the biggest crises facing current science?
Yeah, it doesn't look good. The O'Neill report, which was published, I think, in 2014, estimated that 10 million deaths every year will occur due to antimicrobial resistance.
Now, I'm going to have to bring this up. I'm so sorry. We've heard in the BBC about a little special something called the Beach Bum Survey. Do you care to tell us about that a little bit?
Yeah, that was a study that I did for my PhD. Again, I was working on antibiotic-resistant bacteria in coastal waters. Coastal waters receive water from rivers, which can contain human and animal waste and can carry antibiotic-resistant bacteria and the chemicals that select for resistance. Obviously, people, especially in Cornwall, like to use the coast for recreational activities. And we had this idea that people, go swimming or surfing would swallow water which contains resistant bacteria, and that the bacteria in their gut that occurs naturally would be affected by these resistant bacteria, and bacteria in their gut would become resistant as well.
Well, Anne, thank you very much for talking to us today.
You're welcome, thanks.
So that was Anne Leonard. Thank you very much for that, Anne. Fantastic speaker. As I said before, she's been on that BBC documentary recently, so do check it out. It's still on iPlayer. Anyway, okay, shall we... Oh, yes. Yes! Sam, you're a genius. A goodbye from us, actually. So thank you very much to everyone who was on the show this week. So thank you in particular to Alice Williams, who brought us that absolutely cracking interview with Lotty Brand. That was awesome. And of course, thank you also to Anne Leonard, who we just heard from a second ago. And thank you, don't forget any people on the show. Thank you also to Ross Kessel from the Dynamite Valley Brewing Co.
Like how we're outroing over the top of Fifth Harmony.
Yeah, it's just such a good song. Your laptop is a genius. No, it is a genius. Anyone got anything else to add before we close up this week? Thanks for being here.
Inside.
Thanks for listening. Thanks for everyone.
Bit more of the hype man.
That's it. That's just me.
Sam, any words for the listeners before we?
Yeah, thanks for tuning in. See you next time.
I tell you what. We won't finish on this.
We've had a request. Ben,
we have had a request.
We need to finish on the request.
Yes, we'll finish on this request.
Now, Ben, I imagine you're going to seamlessly swap songs now.
Actually, you don't even know where the seam is. Well, that is seamless, isn't it? Seamless means that.
What?
This isn't very seamless anymore, is it?
No.
Okay. Anyway, this is a request actually. This is a shout out to Gareth Makin. Gareth was actually on our show, one of our old shows. Again, if you haven't heard the show, then there is no excuse because it is on YouTube. We will find you and force you to listen to it. Yeah, he spoke to us before about his life being a drummer in a band. In fact, there's actually two songs to finish up with because I've got some example of it. Our very own hype man, James, who joined us today. James Makin joined us today talking about media and advertising earlier. We've actually got some of his drumming skills as well to play you. Whoop, whoop. The track "Girl I Want." I tell you what, should we hit "Girl I Want" first and then finish up with Gareth's request?
Yeah, I think
that's probably a good idea.
Way around.
And then that will be a.
So I've not heard "Girl I Want." So.
Okay, well this is fantastic. I'll put it on for you now. Both of us on the vocals. James is a very good singer as well.
Oh, of course.
He's also a rap artist. We don't have any examples of his raps today. I'm sorry, but this will have to do for now. So James on the drums.
Breath's like a hurricane. We won't stay young forever. When every step takes us closer. Girl I want, girl I want. Yeah, girl I want, girl I want.
Right, okay, so we're going to leave you now. Going to leave you with this last request, and this is actually special happy birthday to Gareth Makin. His birthday the weekend just gone. He informed me that actually the Dark Lord Rufus, it's his son Rufus, he is a bit of a Dark Lord. Apparently, Dark Lord did actually deem him worthy enough to have a birthday this year, so that was good. So that's a goodbye from all of us here. Thank you very much. Do join us next week here on the Source FM, 7:30 to 9 on Thursday. Your favourite time, only because of the show. Before it was just Thursday, a bit boring. But now it's the new Friday. Right, goodbye everyone.
She came from planet Claire.